Good evening and welcome to DTV, Knoxville's television program for Democrats and by Democrats. Tonight is September 20th, 2019, a beautiful late summer evening in the best place in the world to live, Knoxville, Tennessee. So tonight we have a great show. We have the chair lady, chairwoman, chair.
Just chair, it's fine.
Just chair.
Just the chair.
The exalted one.
Oh, there you go. That'll work.
Of the Tennessee Democratic Party, we have Miss Mary Mancini.
Hey,
Thank you
Bill.
very much, Mary, for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Well,
it.
You've been doing a great job.
Thank you.
And a thankless job, I might add. You know, everybody's, all you can do is get criticized, it seems. And
it seems that way, but that is really not true. And this is the best job I've ever had, sincerely.
Great.
This is a wonderful job. It's great to be sort of on the forefront of the resurgence of Democrats in Tennessee. And that's exactly what I see all around the state. So
it is.
It's a really wonderful place to be.
And we are on our way back. And
absolutely.
Well, one of the things we want to talk about, we've got a whole list of long things that we want to talk about tonight, but one of the things that you've been doing and you're leading the charge on really is about the rural health care tour and the results and the benefits that we've seen from that. I've worked with several of the hospitals around here as clients. I know the problems that we've had with several hospitals being closed all over the state. And so if you would talk a little bit about what the Tennessee Democratic Party is doing to address this serious issue.
Oh, sure, and it is really serious, as you know. This all started, really, we had a few hospital closures in Tennessee sort of in the early part of this decade. And that was accelerated by the Republicans in the Tennessee State House and State Senate, and the governor at the time, Bill Haslam. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but their refusal to expand Medicaid. And that really exacerbated the problem. So far, we'd have had 13 hospitals rural hospitals in Tennessee that have either closed or severely reduced services. So what we wanted to do was get out in the community, and so on this tour that we did in August, we stopped in each place where a rural hospital had closed, right? And there were several different things that we were doing. One was meeting with local elected and business leaders and healthcare leaders. We had a press conference with people that had been affected by it, by hospitals closing, EMT specialists, doctors who saw the effect. And then at night we had a town hall kind of event where we invited people from the community to come and ask questions of a panel of experts. And so we had healthcare experts, we had Medicaid expansion experts, we had Obamacare experts, the marketplace, and people stood up and told their stories. So that's what the tour looked like. To go back and tell a little bit more history about what happened is we had the opportunity to expand Medicaid in this state. And Bill Haslam, a Republican governor, put together a plan that he called Insure Tennessee that would have expanded Medicaid and would have kept rural hospitals from closing. There's a study that's done now that says that in states that have expanded Medicaid, hospitals are 6 times less likely to close. So it would have done that. It would have insured an additional 300,000 Tennesseans who right now have no insurance. They've just fallen through the cracks, right? And that we heard a lot of those stories of people who were just saying, I can't afford insurance, so I don't go to the doctor. Or one urologist that we talked to said, I've had a patient come to me with a urinary tract infection, which in this day and age is a purely treatable disease. But they put off going to the doctor for so long because they didn't have insurance. He said not even the Mayo Clinic could have helped him at this point. And he died from a urinary tract infection, right? Like that's inexcusable, very sad in this day and age. So we have a Republican governor who said, I want to do this. Some other Republicans and the whole Democratic caucus, State House and State Senate Democratic caucus said, great, we'll work with you on it. And it was literally shut down by 7 Republicans in a State House committee. 7 Republicans who said, who were threatened, by the way, by Americans for Prosperity. They said, if you vote for this, we will primary you. We will make sure somebody runs against you in your next primary, and we'll make sure that they are fully funded. And so we have 7 of them who voted for their own, political ambition and self-interest rather than voting for what's best for the people of Tennessee. So Insure Tennessee died, and with it, 13 rural hospitals, billions of dollars. And let me just say one more thing about this, because this is also a really important point. This was when we expanded Medicaid, it would have meant that our tax dollars that we pay into the federal government, is that what you were going to say? Right? We're going to come back to this state, and now they're going to Kentucky and Mississippi and California and New York, right? The money we paid into the government are going to these other states. All it would have meant is that money would have come back to help it, and they still refuse to expand Medicaid.
Tennessee taxpayers are paying for California and Ohio and New York hospitals.
Yep.
And for their health care, we're not getting it for ourselves. And just from a pure economic point of view, it cost us $100 million a month. We lose $100 million a month that would be coming into Tennessee. Yep. Instead, we're paying it out.
Yep.
And
we're
it
still
makes
paying it out. Yeah.
It this Americans for Prosperity. What did you call it?
Americans for Prosperity.
It's not prosperity for Tennesseans.
No,
it's
prosperity for their own pockets.
It is what it is. And it's only because of the name Obamacare. That's the only reason that we're not receiving it.
And it's funny you say that, because that's exactly the reason why Bill Haslam, smart guy, said, I'm going to call it Insure Tennessee. It's not going to be called Medicaid expansion. I'm going to rebrand it. That was the exact reason why. And they still would not pass it because it had the whiff of, it was basically the Obamacare program, right? Like, we're going to give money to the states to expand Medicaid. We're going to give money back to the states, right? It was, again, our tax dollars coming back to us that, yes, we're still paying those tax dollars, and now they're going to other places. But we did hear a lot of, besides the incredibly sad stories of, teenagers not being kicked off of TennCare, not being able to get their insulin. And, this one girl said, her grandfather was sharing his with her. Terrible stories. There was the economic issue, right? Which is rural hospitals in a lot of rural places right now are the primary job, the place that provides jobs, right? So all of those jobs go away, all of the attached...
And not just those jobs, not just the hospital jobs, but also the economic recruitment value of having a hospital in the community. It really deteriorates the attractiveness of a community if it doesn't have a hospital nearby.
Who's going to come? What company is going to relocate to a rural area without a hospital and emergency services?
Right.
And that's the other big thing, is emergency room services is so important, because again, what we learned so much on this tour, but didn't go to medical school. One of the things is a golden hour. Right, and when a county, and so when we talk about, let's just also make this clear, when we talk about a county losing, or a rural hospital closing, that usually means the whole county is left without a hospital. Right. So now you have a golden hour, your parent has a heart attack, and the EMTs have less than an hour to get your parent to an emergency room. They could do as much as they can, right? And so this is a scenario that the EMT specialist in Fentress County said, we have 2 crews. If both crews are out and your parent has a heart attack, we have to come back from wherever we are, right, whatever other county we're in, half hour, 45 minutes, then pick up your parent and then drive them back again. Well, that's past the golden 60 minutes. So it's just an unexcusable, unavoidable mess that the Republican Party has gotten us into.
That's very true. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so I appreciate what you're doing and what the TNDP has done to bring attention to this issue. One of the issues coming up this coming year is the Tennessee presidential primaries all over the country, of course, but we're interested in Tennessee, and electing delegates to the Democratic National Convention that will be in Milwaukee in mid-July of 2020. I think it's the 13th through the 16th of July of 2020. So if you would talk a little bit about the delegate selection plan, how people can run for a delegate, how the delegate selection plan is how does anybody find out about how to run for a delegate?
Right. So it's a convoluted process. So I will boil it down to the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, every process you have to have a process.
You have to have a process.
You have to have a process.
And here's why our process is better than their process.
Okay.
Okay, right? So when you've been to many conventions, people out there who have not been to them but watched them on TV, there is a very apparent difference between the two conventions. Their convention is very monochromatic, right? Very white, very able-bodied, very straight-laced looking, right? Our convention is colorful and vibrant and multi-abled and it really multi-ethnic. I mean, it encompasses the very fabric of what America is.
Exactly.
Right? And it encompasses our Democratic Party values.
Our convention looks like America.
Looks like America. And it also encompasses our values, which is that everyone, no matter who you are, what you look like, where you live, how you pray, who you love, right, should have an opportunity in this country to do better, right? And so that kind of brings us to the opportunity Tennesseans have to go to the Democratic National Convention as a delegate for a candidate for president. So it's a plan that we have to get approved by the DNC. We're going to be doing trainings all across the state to explain the process, but not very simply. There's 2 weekends in March where the first one is at the county level.
Well, first mention the primary, the day of the primary, the presidential primary.
The presidential primary is February.
No, March.
Oh my God! Sorry, March 3rd.
March the 3rd.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Wow. Okay. March the 3rd.
And that determines the percentage. We have a proportionate voting. So every candidate, any candidate that gets more than 15% should get at least one delegate.
Right. And you have to choose which candidate you want to be a delegate for. And then it's spread out. The number of delegates that we get is spread out across the state, and it's based on congressional district, but it first has to start at the county party,
yes.
County level.
Thank you. Now those are those two weekends in March.
Thank you. You gave me such a great basis now to explain this. So at the county level, at first weekend in March, the Democrats come together and they elect the people that are going to go on to the next weekend's event, and they're called selectors. They elect those selectors to go on to the next weekend's event to actually elect the delegates. So everybody comes together on a county level.
That's the county convention.
The county convention elects the selectors. The next week, those elected selectors have to go to the district level convention, congressional district level convention, and that's where the election of the actual delegates happens. And we'll let you know at each congressional level how many delegates you have to vote for. Some people put slates together. If anyone is interested in running as a delegate and wants to be elected by the selectors, my best advice is to run it like a campaign.
Definitely.
It is a campaign. It is a campaign. You are not going to magically just get elected. You have to make the case for why you want to be there, why you want to represent your candidate, and you have to make that case to the people that are selected to vote for you.
And that's important. And the first part is to show up at the county convention with your supporters. The more supporters you show up, the more likely you are to get elected.
That is 100% right.
Right.
100% right. But it's a very grassroots process, and again, it's very different than the Republican process.
And how would someone go about learning how to, getting the information on how to do that. Is that on the TNDP website?
It is. TNDP.org is the website. There's a button there that, it's, I forget what it's called, but it's very apparent that it explains what happens. We're also, to make sure that everybody knows how to run. Anybody who's interested knows how to run. Well, right now we're going around training. See, it's also multi-level for us, right? And these are things that we do because we want to make sure that's an open process. So right now our Party Affairs Director, Maria Brewer, is going around training the counties on how to run that county convention, which is also a really important step. Then we're going to do another set of trainings for people that are interested in becoming delegates to the actual convention, so that people understand the process, they know what they need to do. So it's a very not complicated, it's a process where we want to make sure it's a grassroots effort.
Grassroots,
right?
And it's systematic.
It's systematic,
it's
grassroots.
It's well defined, so
That's right.
everyone knows exactly what they have to do, and what they have to do to become a delegate. But they have to do these things. They have to take the time to figure it out. 4 years ago, people were saying, "Oh, this is rigged. This is rigged." It's not a rigged system. It's a public system. It's well publicized, but people have to take the initiative to find out how to do it.
That's right. It's, again, running it just like a campaign for any office is really important.
And it's part of the reforms that came in back really when I started in politics, when the first convention that I tried to go to, I couldn't get in 1968. And the next convention
there's a little bit going on
in 1972, that was in Chicago.
Right.
I'm dating myself. I was way too young to vote even, but I was trying to go to the convention. And then in 72 in Miami, we couldn't get in there. And so it was a long time before I could get into the conventions.
Oh, really?
Right. But
that's funny.
The reforms that came in broadened the party out and welcomed more people into the party. The Democratic Party is a Democratic Party with a small d. We welcome everyone. We are a big tent, and we welcome everyone who wants to come in. So just go to the TNDP website and look up the delegate selection. There'll be a delegate selection icon to click on, and click on that, and you can learn all about it. It's open. It's an open process, and we encourage everyone or anyone who wants to participate in this to learn about it.
Right. Absolutely. Now there is one other piece to it that I think people should, and this is the reason why our convention is so colorful, right? We have to have a certain our delegate selection plan is run by the DNC. They have to approve it, but we have to make sure that we have a delegation that looks like Tennessee.
Yes.
Right. So after the elections happen, there's a certain number of spots that are left open to get filled by the Tennessee Democratic Party Executive Committee to fill in any spots that the actual election process has not covered. So for instance, if not enough African Americans are represented after the election, then we have to make sure that in the group that is picked by the State Executive Committee meets that criteria. And that's put in specifically because we want, as Democrats, to be small d Democratic and make sure that our delegation looks like Tennessee and looks like America.
Right. And we have to have an even split on the male and female.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And gender, non-gender determined.
Right. And that's a new thing this year,
right.
too.
So the Democratic Party has worked for 50 years to make itself more open, more reflective of the entire voting community at large.
That's right.
We are not limited to one certain group. We want everyone involved, and we encourage everyone to be involved. So
Yes, absolutely.
go to the TNDP website and check it out if you're interested at all in being part of a historic convention. 2020 in Milwaukee will be a historic convention, and I was just looking up places to stay. Oh, where's our hotel? What hotel have we been assigned to? Do you remember?
That's a funny story. Yes, we're actually in Chicago.
In Chicago.
At the O'Hare Airport,
right.
which is about 60 miles
right.
south. But we are, I shouldn't say but, and we are with a very good delegation. California is in our
California delegation is going to be at the same hotel
or
as
same cluster of hotels.
Same area as the Tennessee delegation.
Yeah.
So we'll be on the bus back and forth with them.
We'll be on the buses back and forth with California. So, and some other states too. There's about 6 or 7 that are also in our cluster.
Okay, we've got a few other things that we want to talk about before, because this is our golden half hour.
Oh yeah, golden half hour. Yikes.
So, what about we talked a little bit about about Medicaid expansion. Now, what about the new plan that Governor Lee is proposing for block grants for the hospitals?
Oh gosh, yeah. So there's a number of really problematic elements of this plan. So the first thing I would say is there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, right? Literally Tennessee is saying to the federal government, no other state has done this. We are the first state. And by the way, we are only one of 14 states that has not expanded Medicaid. 36 other states have. So what we are saying is we know better. We can do better. Just give us a bunch of money. Give us a bunch of money, and we know better what to do with it. Like, we'll just take care of it, right? Well, a couple of problems with that. Number one, the rural hospital epidemic in Tennessee has been happening for years under Republican watch, and they've done nothing to address it or stop it. So, a little late to the party at this point, right? Like, they just don't know what they're doing.
So hospitals have closed while the Republicans have been in charge.
The fiddling, burning
Same thing has happened to the Tennessee football team, the University of Tennessee volunteer football team. While the Republicans have been in control, the Tennessee football team has gone down. When the Democrats were in control, we were number 1 in the country.
Go Vols.
Right. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No.
My priorities are.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm exposing my priorities here.
No, it's all good. Hey, look, analogies help tell a story, right? So it's all good. But the other piece of that is this is a government, Republican-led government, that allowed 128,000 children to mysteriously fall off the 10-care rolls. This is a government that disenrolled senior citizens from the state program that helps them with their health insurance. And senior citizens didn't know about it until they started going to the doctor, and the doctor was like, well, you're not covered anymore. So the reason why I'm telling you all this is because they don't really know what they're doing, right? So for the government for us to trust them with this large chunk of our tax dollars to not mess it up, right? They're going to mess it up. They're just going to mess it up. So that's one thing about it. The other thing is that what they say is if you give us money and we save money, right? We don't spend it all. We get to keep it. I don't trust them to do that either, because they have shown by their inability to expand Medicaid that their priorities are not the people of Tennessee and their health and well-being. So, will they cut services to save money and to put more money in the rainy day fund, which, by the way, is nearing $1 billion. And for people out in rural Tennessee, it's pouring.
It's
right?
raining
it is
now.
Pouring.
Right.
They have no access to health care, no access to emergency services. So, it's just it's an issue of why are they even and then so the third thing about this is if there is an economic downturn, if the money suddenly stops coming, then they do not have the, how can I put this?
discipline?
Yes, right. They will just start automatically cutting,
Right.
you know, and it's just, you know, again, it's what they think are priorities, which are not the priorities of the people of Tennessee. So there's a lot of problems with this block grant program that, again, Medicaid expansion already does a great job of extending health care, keeping rural to 300,000 people in Tennessee, keeping rural hospitals open. And can I just say one more thing about the tour that I didn't mention before, which is one of the things that we did and we felt the need to do when we started the tour at the beginning is we heard a lot of people saying, well, of course the hospital closed, it couldn't make any money, right? And then we went to Copper Hill. And we learned the story of the hospital there. And the story of that hospital is that the workers in the copper mine in the late 50s got tired of seeing women dying in childbirth. They got tired of seeing the little graves and little coffins of children who didn't have access to health care. They got tired of seeing their fellow workers getting maimed or killed, right, and not having the health care that they need. And they said, we're going to come together and we're going to build a hospital. And management said, okay, we're going to help you and we're going to take a little bit out of your paycheck every month and we're going to go ahead and help you build this hospital. And they had that hospital open for the health and well-being of the community that they were in. Today, what would that be called? Socialism. And it's not socialism. It's community. It's understanding that hospitals were always created to be part of infrastructure. They are part of infrastructure, like having good roads to drive on, having clean water to drink, making sure that, you know, when you turn on the tap, you could drink the water that comes out of the faucet, making sure that the environment is protected and that there are regulations to keep things from seeping into the ground so that you can, grow have clean brooks to play in parks. I mean, it's part of the infrastructure. It's about the health and well-being. And so when we heard that, we realized, like, we have to start changing the perception of what a hospital is before the people in Tennessee will realize you deserve a hospital that's close by to you. You deserve emergency services just like you deserve clean water to drink, clean air to breathe. It's the same type of service. So, no more can the Republicans say and shrug their shoulders and say, well, it couldn't make money. Hospitals were never meant to make money. If you think about how they started, they were community built, they were county built, they were built by religious organizations and institutions, and they never were money-making operations. They were break-even or money-losing operations, and they were always, always, always dumping money back into the services.
And these hospitals have been full. They have been full and they're still losing money, and the reason is because we haven't expanded Medicaid to get that money to pay for Tennessee residents,
Yes.
Tennessee patients.
There is a number of different
And
reasons
it
why
makes no sense at all why these hospitals that are full and are losing money.
Well, and that brings up a whole other issue, right? Which is the hospitals are closing. Now all of those emergency patients are being driven to another hospital in another community, and they are taxed.
Right.
Right. We
Exactly.
talked to the mother of emergency room doctor who said, I never talk to my son anymore because he's working.
We're about
all
to
the
run
time.
out of time here.
Okay.
So
This has been so great. Thank you, Bill.
I wanted to make sure we said something about the GM strike.
Oh,
We
yeah.
didn't get to talk about
We
that.
didn't.
Climate change.
Oh, so much.
Vice President Gore still doing his greatest. Thank you for watching DTV. Please tune in next week for another exciting show.